everyone. Welcome to Moonbeam Musings and here for our fifth episode. Today we have Kiran Kaur, energy healer, Reiki practitioner, and spiritual guide. Born and raised in Kenya, Kiran grew up immersed in the rich culture and spiritual traditions of East Africa, alongside the religious teachings of her upbringing. Now based in the UK, she blends these diverse influences into her work as a Reiki practitioner, reflexologist, and energy healer. With a deep understanding of both ancient wisdom and modern holistic practices, Kiran helps people reconnect with their inner power through energy healing, intuitive guidance, and spell work. Her approach is rooted in the belief that the body, mind, and spirit are interconnected, and true healing comes from the balancing all aspects of the self. Drawing from African spirituality, Eastern healing modalities, and her own lived experiences, Kiran offers a unique and transformative perspective on wellness, manifestation, and the unseen forces that shape our lives. Whether through hands on healing, energy work, or personalized rituals, she empowers others to embrace their own spiritual journey with confidence and curiosity. And her information is in the bio. So, good morning. Welcome, Kiran. How are you today? Thank you so much for being here.
I'm good, thanks, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So I think to start, it would be lovely to hear about your background. If you could start there so everyone can know where you came from.
Yeah, so I'm born in a Sikh family, obviously in Indian origin, and but during the time the in like a lot of Indians were brought down to Africa to make the East Africa really to make the railways and everything. So my ancestors were part of that group, and most of them, whereas my ancestors, they settled down in Kenya. So adapting the African culture as well as the Indian culture, I've grown up with that diversity upbringing where you you interact with the various religions as well, which is out there in Kenya. And so, as I said, I was born and brought up in Kenya. I think I am the fourth generation living in Kenya. So, obviously, my predecessors were all in mostly in Kenya and Uganda. So those are the two places that they had their base. And growing up, obviously, I lived in Kenya for 18 years, finished my schooling, and then I came to the UK to study at university. So I have a university degree in computer science and networking. I know it's a total technology side of things, and but also growing up, there was a lot of growing up with the Sikh culture, the daily prayer, putting into practice, and there was a lot of understanding of how the religion works and meeting up in the community because we had a temple, which was a gurdwara. That's what we call the Sikh temple, and obviously there is a large Sikh community in Africa, so everyone has got every town has a Sikh temple, and that's where everyone went to pray. Bringing again, like growing up in the African culture, you understood what was going on, how people worked, and so like the major religions in Kenya are Christianity and Islamic. So these are the two big ones. And then obviously then you have the other ethnic backgrounds. You've got the Hindus, you've got the Sikhs, and you've got a vast range of them. And so bringing those two, the religion side of things and spirituality, growing up in my household, um, there was nothing like because obviously in the Sikh community, I will say the culture rather than the religion, because in the culture you've got classes, you've got the caste system. So you have the top of the hierarchy is the landowners, the farmers, and then you've got the carpenters, and you've got all, and then it just flows down. And growing up as a child, I was never exposed to the caste system. My grandma would always tell me, we're all equal, we're all one, we're Sikhs, so we are just, she would put us in a bracket. And that was interesting because that's how you were brought up. That's how you were taught that this we're just a one human race, and but then conversations came up in school, and then friends were talking about, did you know you were a Jat, which is you're a Jat, as in the landowners, and we are the carpenters, and so then that came up, and I'm like, I got really confused because here is someone I've been taught that we're all Sikhs. That's it. That's all we know. And so I go home and I speak to my mom and my grandma, and I'm like, are we Jats? And they're like, who told you that? And I was like, well, we were having this discussion in school, and this topic came up, and my grandma was like, next time you go tell your friends that before we bring this caste system in, we're all Sikhs, we're all one. And that's what our religion teaches us. And the beauty of Sikhism is it did actually eradicate the caste system. It was taken off there, and everyone was either a Singh or a Kaur. So the Kaurs, the women are called Kaurs, who are the English term is princesses, and then whereas the Singhs are the male side, who are lions. Okay, Singh is just pretty much the straight translation is lion. So it's a warrior race, and obviously they were warriors back in the day, and they took up the ammunition and arms was because of self-defense and justice. So that's how we've been inbred to say, this is we were a warrior race. So learning about, understanding that we're all one, and coming from there, the spiritual journey comes in through there. Sikhism, again, Sikh means to look, to find, to actually broaden your horizon, to understand what exactly you are looking for, and broadening your spirituality. And that's all it is. It's your connection with God. No matter how you get to God, there's various practices you could do, and in Sikhism it's a daily prayer that you would connect yourself with God. And then obviously you had the Guru Granth Sahib, which is our uh, living guru. So we had 10 gurus, and then this was the last living guru, which has got all the scriptures that were compiled by various the gurus, as well as the poets, who everyone contributed to it. And that compilation is where, if you had a question to ask, you would go to the Guru Granth Sahib, pray, and then whatever page opens up, that is your answer to the question you had. So that is the explanation of, if you're having any troubles or issues, that's where you seek your guidance from, basically. And then, okay, obviously, in Sikhism, you're told no idol worshipping, and stuff. There's a lot of there's a lot that's involved in there, but I just like to pick the good things and like understand what exactly these scriptures are telling me. I wouldn't understand them like the way they recite it and they tell you, but to the best of my knowledge, I interpret it in such a way that it it gives me the proper message. So again, as I said, with me it was more of not just the religion, but it was more about spirituality, more about understanding how your connection with God is. Because when I was a teenager, I would question. I'd be sitting there thinking, what's my purpose in life? Life surely can't be you you study, you finish your education, you get married, you have children. Then what? Is that all there is to life? Is that you live that life, you die, and then you're gone? So what did you achieve? What was your purpose in life? Questioning these things really made me wonder, there's more to life than just living. Like you watch your family, you watch your family members, everything is the same repeated cycle. Everyone's getting married, everyone's having children, and then they get old, and then they die, and that's the whole cycle, basically. So here's me thinking, I'm made for something more. I can't just be sitting here like understanding what this is not. You start questioning these things. And so I started reading books, and people would give me books to read, and then I'd sit there and I'm like, do you know what? I'm not Kiran. I'm a soul. Did you know that? My soul lives in my body, and it's like it's a temporary home for my soul. And people will be like, "What is she on about?" And because you've had that awakening that's been going on, and you're learning about things, and you're understanding how things work. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
people identify themselves with their body, with themselves when they look in the mirror rather than their soul. Many people do.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So which has been such an interesting concept to understand what exactly is happening there. And Reiki came into my life when I was a teenager. Um, a group of people came from India, and they were teaching, like various people. They went to different towns in Kenya, and they would teach Reiki whoever wanted to learn it. And it was interesting, but I never understood how energy healing can help you out with this, because there's this bloke who's like standing there and holding his two fingers on. I watched it happen to somebody else, not me, but he was holding like two fingers pointed like a gun, and it was just like pointing that energy going into your forehead and balancing what it is. And I was skeptical about it. I'll admit, I'm like, what is he on about? What is he doing? Do people feel anything? Is there energy? The curious mind keeps asking these questions, and I was like, okay, maybe there must be something there. And one of the mums was like, can you make my daughter more intelligent so that she can pass her exams? Because you had the competition going on in those days. And so he would stand there, and I just couldn't stop laughing. I was like, this is just so weird. But anyway, I forgot about it, and then obviously life happened, education, everything, and then Reiki came into my life again in my 30s. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, okay, why has this come back? And I went for a healing. This was at the time I was working for a media agency, and what they do is in offices they bring in holistic therapists and masseurs and everything. So it's to treat the employees, so the employees can go and have a session. So I decided, I was like, okay, Reiki's come back into my life. Let's do this. Let's have a session with the lady. As soon as I laid on that treatment table, the healing she gave me, I just saw colors, vibrant colors coming out of like it was just literally colors everywhere. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. This is powerful. And I'm like, so it started making me more curious about understanding what Reiki is all about. So and I said, and you know when they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So that's what happened with me, in the sense that I think probably telling the universe, I was like, I think I do want to learn Reiki. I really, because it's calling to me, and it's been tapping on my shoulder. Come on, you need to get into it, because this is what your calling is. So I'm sitting there like just thinking about it, and then I get a phone call from one of my relatives, and she goes to me, she's like, my sister can't make it to this Reiki session, would you like to go to it? And I was like, yeah. I was like, how did that work? It's just the universe was like literally playing, and it was just like, wow, okay, here's me projecting my thought, and it's already come and fallen in my lap, basically. So I went for the first session. Level one is all about attuning yourself, channeling, and self-healing, and you just heal friends and family. So it's more of just learning about it, and with that you do like the 21 days of self-healing as soon as you get attuned to it. So it was interesting, the experiences I had. Like, to begin with, I was angry. I had so much of emotions, and I'm like, where is this coming from? And then by the second week, I was in tears all over the place, and I was so sensitive. I was seeing mandala designs, and my vision I was just like seeing patterns everywhere. And I'm like, what is going on with me? And I realized, and I was told, I was like, this is what's going to happen in the 21 days. You're going to see a lot of relationships that you might have I was dating my then now husband, then boyfriend, and he said, and they were like, "You could break off your relationship," and that scared me as well. I was like, "Oh my God, okay, this is interesting," and because as humans, we're attached to a lot of these materialistic things, and we're like, "Okay, I'm going to lose this or what," but I just trusted the process. I was like, "You know what? Let's see what happens." By the third week, I was uh I was literally calm. It was like this angry person had disappeared and had literally had a transformation. It was like an awakening for me to align myself, to understand. And then I started practicing more, and till now every day it's part of my daily practice to self heal myself. So before I go to sleep, I'll do the self healing, and then I'll sleep. So the Reiki is switched on all night, and the healing just carries on. And it's just interesting how the concept works. And
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
sorry.
Well, I had a question. So people will probably be curious as to why they said that it may kind of blow up your life. Is that because anything that's not aligned with the energy that you move into, is that what that they're talking about?
Yes. So, what happens is because you've had that attunement, you've had that alignment, what exactly your purpose is, what exactly that tweak needed to take place, and what happens is it's all the old rubbish, I'll call it, goes. It needs to leave your life. It's what no longer serves you purpose. So this could be relationships, this could be a job that you've lost, this could be anything related to what does not longer serve you at all. So it really depends on what you lose. Sometimes you could also lose your home, or it really depends whether, because it's just the alignment that you've had, and spirituality is beyond the material world.
It's very interesting that because I actually, and I've mentioned to you before, trained in Reiki and myself, although I'm not a practitioner, many years ago. And it would be interesting to look exactly the timeline because there was a point in my life where I did split up, or a partner and I split up, and we we were living together, so I had to move. So my life completely blew up. It'd be quite interesting to look where on the timeline it was because it was around a similar time. So that's I'd never really thought about that before. So
Yeah.
thank you.
But what normally happens is when you start when I started my Reiki journey, I actually journaled all my
Mm,
experiences, wrote down what I felt, how I felt, what fell off, what dropped off, what relation, because I really cut out with a lot of relatives, toxic relatives. I'm just going to be open about it. Those who didn't align with my principles, didn't align with what I believe. So they all they all dropped off, and it was like then they'd be like, but you aren't keeping in touch. But it's like I'm going through my journey, so I am following where it's leading me. So you've just got to learn to trust the process.
mm,
And with Reiki, then you have a level two, which is now you can do the distance healing. So I could be sitting here in the UK and send somebody in Kenya or any part in the world this distance healing, and they will receive it. And like one of my friends, my school friends, her mum wasn't well, and she said, my mum's not feeling well, do you think you can help with the healing? And I said, I'll send her some distance healing, let's see what comes up for her. So I did a session, and so what I normally do is I always call back to ask for feedback, just to understand what they felt during the session. And she said to me, she goes like, my mom was so peaceful. She felt so much of warmth in her body when you were sending the healing. And she just felt so relaxed, like a burden had been lifted off her shoulders. And I was like, okay. And what else did she experience? Did she see any images, colors, or anything? She said she just felt really warm, and that warmth was just like she had like a blanket of positivity just around her. So I was like, okay, so that's a good sign that the Reiki healing has happened. And then I moved on to become a Reiki Master practitioner. Now that is again, you get to the next level, where in Reiki level 1 you get taught the 3 symbols, and then there's another fourth one, which is the power symbol, and then it all comes together and you understand, you learn more things, and you learn about the kundalini, you learn about the chakras. There's a whole big um a massive text of on how Reiki works and how you can ground yourself, how you protect yourself when you're giving healing to others, where what type of frame of mind you should be in. So there's a lot of there's a lot involved in it. So just a bit about Reiki is, if whoever wants to understand what Reiki is. The one that I've learned is the Usui method. Now, this is the Japanese gentleman who was teaching Reiki at the time, and he practiced it on paupers, the beggars who were living on the streets. And his aim was to help them to get a better life, than to stop the begging and like improve their quality of life. So he gave them the healing, and I think a week they were fine, they were doing well, they had moved off the streets, but then they went back to begging again. And so he was trying to understand why that's happened, and why didn't this healing last longer and everything. Then he realized that in order to give Reiki, you need to receive something, because if you don't receive it from the receiver that you're treating, they won't value that healing, and that healing won't last longer. And the more you give Reiki healing, the more it amplifies, the more it prolongs, the more you start seeing the results of it as well. So generally, I would say, up until the third session, if you don't feel anything, maybe it's not for you. And sometimes some people would say, I want to try the fourth session. By then, you start seeing results. You start seeing, it depends on the condition that you're also helping with. If it's something very quick, then in 1 or 2 sessions, you'll see the difference. You will see the change as well. And you'll see there's a tiny tweak that needed to be done, and it works fine. So yeah, Reiki has been a crucial part of my life now.
Yeah, so it's interesting because if we go back to the cultural element, so as you said, you grew up in Kenya with a Sikh background, which has a deep heritage, and you have gone into a Japanese healing modality as well. So it's quite going across the cultures. Are there any, also, when you look back at when you lived in Africa, are there any other modalities that are practiced there, perhaps that you don't practice, that or folklore or belief systems within that?
So again, in the Kenyan culture, the East African culture, there's various tribes. Every tribe has their own folklore. They have their own myths that happen. We have the Masais, who believed that the cattle were gift from God, so the cows, and so the more cattle you had, the more uh, successful and the more prosperous you are. And so that was a myth that it still followed. They still believe in it. I grew up listening to stories where what the Masais would do is they would mix the cow's blood and milk together to drink this concoction, was purely to give them that strength, the strength of a cattle, basically. And they would drink that because that was just giving them that energy. So something like that was always there. And then you have the Kikuyu tribe, where their myth was um, God, which they called Guy, and they created man and woman, who was Gikuyu and Mumbi, and these were the two creators, like pretty much like Adam and Eve, and they're the ones who um, obviously created the human race and everything, and that's how it happened. So there's a lot of that goes on. There's tales of the hyena and the rabbit, where um, they they actually killed their mothers to sell their flesh for surviving the famine. And this teaches you how social pressure um, can lead you to the transgression and to see what exactly is happening. And I understood, I was told like the hyenas are a sign of witches, which is interesting. And I was like, now it makes a lot of sense because when you hear a hyena laugh, it sounds like a human laugh. And I'm like, okay, this sounds like a witchy laugh. But you know, when you think about it, you're like, oh my God, it does make sense that they would connect a hyena to a witch. And it was just interesting to understand, to really listen to their cultures and understand how they believe. Some of them also worshipped the sun. They also worshipped the wind. They worshipped uh, the natural, the nature we had, and so there's a lot of that. And then you have the witch doctors in those days, which in the modern term we call them the herbalists, right? So they would be the ones who would give you all these natural herbs for healing and health and different kinds of things. And then comes in the spell casting, which is you create spells to work with certain things. Animals are being sacrificed to create to actually work on these spell works. Really, an interesting story, I think probably I must have shared with you earlier as well, was my dad, back in, I think this was in the 80s, or it would be the late 80s, early 90s. And one morning we woke up and my dad had a chicken head, like a cock head, like slaughtered from the neck up, and it was thrown in his pickup truck. So you could literally see the head of a chicken on there, and it was done in such a precise way that there was no blood. It was cleaned out very meticulously mutilated. Basically, it was a work of art. I'm just like glorifying it, but the way I saw it, it was just that. And legend says it that that was a type of black magic, which they would call juju in the African culture, which is black magic. And um, it was somebody who probably must have done something out of jealousy or whatever it was. And so obviously he was asked, like they asked it to be disposed and everything, and the person who disposed it threw it on the road. And us kids, we just went looking at the chicken head and we're like, oh my God, what is this? So you're curious, you want to know what exactly is happening. And from my point of view as an observer, there was, because when you leave meat or something out, there's flies, or there's, over here you see seagulls literally crowding like a dead animal or something. This head did not have an ant, nothing, no insect would be came around it, and it has been lying there for hours. And it was just interesting to understand, like, why was it, what happened, like, because it's a dead animal, and it's just interesting to see. But then you started seeing negative things happening, things where, like, my dad's business was having problems and everything. So it does it, the way this black magic works, it does bring downfall as well for people that it's done on. um Growing up, I think I was in my 20s when I lost my granddad, and at that point he passed on in Kenya. And I was sleeping one afternoon, and I got up, and I used to have really long hair. And I was, I looked at myself in the mirror, and on the back of my head, which is an odd spot to have, I had a lock of hair chopped off, and this little pointy bit coming out. And I'm like, somebody's gone and cut my hair. And I'm like, why? And like in the Western culture, cutting like the hair, a lock of hair is more of a keepsake or a memory for children, when they're growing and they've lost their hair and everything, and it's the parents keeping it as that. But the negative side of things is you can use lock of hair to do black magic. There's a lot of things that your destiny can be tied, and there's experts out there who do work like that. And and I recall when I came back to work, I got told, we're going to make you redundant, and you're going to lose your job. Everything started going downhill for me. And I was like, at that point, it didn't strike me. I was like, okay, maybe it's just destiny or whatever. And then I realized, I sat down and went deep within, and I was like, my hair was cut. Somebody's done something on it to, because in that time, at that point, I was outspoken. I didn't hide who I was, and I was like always, um, my relatives absolutely hated me because I'd be like, tell them how it is. And obviously you would think there was somebody there who just didn't like my guts, and something must have happened. And I do believe in stuff like this. It does take a toll on you, but then obviously you have to clear these things out and help yourself, and you need a clearance to do it. So yeah, so I've seen the good side of things, and I've also seen the bad side of things as well. And but
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the last thing what you mentioned there was about spells, and I know that you have a practice with your own spells, and it would be great to understand because what we've been talking about in the African culture is a little bit different to what you do. So, do you want to explain a bit about that?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I will be saying I'm a witch. I'm not the hyena witch. I don't have a nasty laugh, but no. So again, this is something I've only just started telling people, that yes, I am a witch, and I'm the good witch. I don't do anything negative. I don't believe in harming anybody or doing something to jeopardize somebody's livelihood. And this is what I also tell my clients. If you want to come for a spell or anything, I will do it for just the positive side of things. And it's going to be for your higher good and for your higher self's good as well. So anything that is meant to be in your life is what the spell will attract. Now, my spell jars that I make they're encased in glass, and I work with a lot of herbs. So I'm more of a kitchen witch. So this is again working with herbs, with spices, and understanding each spice. So like a tarot reader will feel their cards, and they will understand it and feel the energy of a card. It's pretty much similar to what I do. I feel these herbs. I understand what the properties of these herbs do. And when you're in connection with these herbs, then they speak to you, and then you look at them and you're like, yeah, this needs to go in. So for instance, for example, I make a manifestation spell jar, and manifestation is all about, again, this is the concept of a genie in a bottle. So when you rub the lamp, the genie comes out, you ask for your wish, and your wish is granted. So this spell jar pretty much works the same way, whereas you just encase it with your energy, you infuse it with your energy, with your invocation of what you really want to bring into your reality, and then you watch the magic happen, and instantly it just works. And I've had lots of clients who've given me so much of feedback, and they've said, this has happened to me, this has happened to me. And so with this spell jar, it's all about using various kinds of herbs. Cinnamon is one of the herbs that you can use to amplify, to bring in a lot of positivity in your life, and it really amplifies your manifestation as well. I use cinnamon at home, especially on the first of the month. I take cinnamon powder in my hand, and I just invoke positivity, and say I attract an abundance of positivity in all aspects of my life. When I invoke that, I stand at the entrance of my house, looking into the house, and blow the cinnamon into the house, because that ritual is just to bring in that abundance. So working with herbs, it can be in different ways. And in my spell jar, I'll put the cinnamon in there to amplify it. And then you've got rosemary, you've got um, marjoram, you've got salt, you've got berries, different kinds of things that will go in a spell jar. And I put in a spell as well. I write a spell for you, and it goes in there. And well, I'm giving you my secret, but this is what I do. I'll write you a specific one. I did a fertility one for somebody who wanted a fertility spell jar, and obviously all the herbs that are related to fertility go in there. The spell is written in there, and then I seal it with a crystal. So I put a crystal in there to amplify it. Crystals are also a good way of attracting a lot of positivity into your life. Different crystals have different uses. Like the green aventurine is good in bringing the wealth in. Rose quartz is amplifying love, not just self love, unconditional love, and romantic love. It's got its properties. I seal it with wax, and then put my seal on top to say this witch has approved this spell jar and it's ready for you to use. And so that's how I make my spell jars. Back in the day, people would have like little sachets of um, mixture of herbs, and then you put those, and you can hang them at the entrance of your house, or you can put them under the pillow of your bed. And there's various ways of using spells.
So what you're saying, if someone came to you, for example, and they had an issue like fertility or headaches or something like that, you could create them a spell jar, and obviously all your expertise goes into that, as you said, and you're taking things from the earth, like all the
Yes.
herbs, spices, crystals, and you're combining that in a certain way, and then you would give that to them. And would you give them some instructions, such as a ritual or affirmation and ways of use?
Yes, I would do that. So
Okay, lovely.
every spell jar has got its own instructions, and I'll give you a card of instructions. What I used to do previously was I used to write it down for everyone and every spell, but now the beauty of just printing it out and labeling it and everything, so it's so much easier. So I'd give you instructions with the spell jar, and then I'll tell you before you use the spell jar, you need to sit down and really think what you want to attract, what you want to bring into your reality. Because sometimes what happens is, like with laws of attraction, sometimes you sit there, you want something so badly, but when you get it, you're like, actually, I could have done without it. I don't need it. And but you're stuck with it now because you've manifested it into your life, and you're like, oh God, why did this happen? Why did I even do? So I always say, be very responsible, be very sure of what you want to bring into your reality, because boom, when it works, that's it. It's there for you for life, and you can't do away with it. And you'll be like, oh God, why didn't I think of that? But you've got to be very sure of what you want and be specific when you ask for what you want. And then I always I talk you I give you the instructions, but I also talk you through it so that I tell you how it actually works. And it works fine. And the ladies, there's one lady who every full moon she'll go out in the moon, and she's like cleansing it and working with it, and sending the positive vibes that she wants to bring in at that point. And she's seen such good results. I'm like, wow, okay. So these spell jars, they work. They really do. They help you out. It's a tool to just help you to bring your desire into your reality, basically.
Thank you so much. So I think the wise words there are watch what you wish for.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, that's wonderful. Well, Kieran, it's been amazing. I mean, I feel like it's just been so informative and really deep sharing that you've given us today. So we really appreciate that. So thank you so much for sharing your life and your culture and also, Reiki and really in a very comprehensive way. So I guess if we're going to put your Instagram in the bio. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you with any questions or to understand what you could do, I mean, remotely or about your spell jars, are you happy for people to get in contact with you?
Yes, sure. The more people
Yeah.
I help, the more we can get people seeing magic in their life. Because my motto and my bold statement is every day, everything magic. So yeah,
Wonderful, which is very much aligned with what we're doing here with this podcast. So thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it, and um, we hope to see you. Perhaps there's so many things we could talk about with you, perhaps again in the future as well.
definitely.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Kieran.
And thank you for having me on the podcast.